Thanks a lot, Anayata. So, after doing a brief synopsis of the factors which contribute towards attraction, which are important for the compatibility, which has been explained by you in the previous session, keeping in mind the modern day context, low attention span of people, and where all we can improve or we can update the Ashtput Milan, traditionally being followed in India. So, after discussing all of that, now we will be foraying into the second most important aspect of our today's discussion for all those people where the Cupid strikes them little bit late. Like all those people who have been their relationship in the first half of their life did not work out, or who have been single, bachelor, they are eyeing for love to happen in their life. So, which all are the factors which contributes towards that? So, to my audience, those who have not watched the first part of this video, it has already been uploaded in both of our channels. And now this is going to be the subsequent second part of that discussion. So now back to you, Namita.
Thanks, Nipun. Okay, so late marriage is, for many reasons, become quite the reality nowadays, right? It's become very common. So now, late, according to me, is beyond mid-30s, right? So before the age of 35, 36, I don't consider it late. So I just want to sort of like define that properly. Why? For the simple reason that that's also Saturn's maturity, right? From the age of 36 to 39. So I take the number to be 35, 36 as defined as late. Of course, this varies somewhat in like depending on what culture you're from and where you live, you know, it does vary a little bit what you define as late, but this is what I would say contemporary day to define late, mid-30s. So now there are many, of course, combinations where marriage can be late, some cases denied. But I don't think that the denial is as it used to be in the past, where it's denied for like reasons that are so much beyond your control, right? It's just a matter of fate and luck, destiny. You're born in some place and something happens, and maybe, as you said rightfully, your first partner could have either their divorce or death or something, and you don't get married again. So this is nowadays it's a choice driven rather than, of course, circumstance. If marriage is denied, I mean, there are so many people that I've met that quite clearly say, I don't believe in marriage and I don't want to get married, right? Sometimes it's because they've had a bad run with it the first time around. Profession also plays an important role. The more educated you are, and because it's taken so long for you to get that education and then develop your profession, people tend to, for that reason, delay marriage. Personal lifestyle has become so much more important than it used to be. So for example, I want my freedom. I want the freedom to explore. I want the freedom to travel, work from wherever I want, do my own thing, that independent kind of centric lifestyle. So marriage is just, it's not mandatory, actually. I mean, it's not the case, as we talked about. We don't rely on it for our basic needs anymore as we used to, like, especially women would like very much rely on it. And I would actually say now it's become the reverse, where I think a man like needs and wants marriage more than a woman does in many cases. This is what I'm hearing anyway from people. Which makes sense, because the observation that I've made is that when a man gets older, and when I say older, I mean like, late 40s, 50s, right? That kind of thing. I can see that it's difficult for men to cope with being alone at that age. When they get older, I think it's difficult for them to cope being alone. Whereas I've noticed that with women, it tends to be easier for them to cope being single. So if you are financially resourceful and you don't need somebody for that reason, then marriage for you is kind of an option, right? Because let's face it, like many people get married and stay married because of the financial, because it actually makes your lifestyle, it will give you a better lifestyle. You're sharing your expenses, right? You're sharing your expenses, therefore you can afford more things. You could afford a bigger house if there's two of you. If we take that out of the equation, because that's a very practical thing, if we take that out of the equation, marriage is not mandatory, actually, for the other reasons. Because if you live in a society where it's like where I live in Europe, it's, many people are not married, much late into their life, and they're not married, and they've chosen not to be married. Some have chosen it. Some have been married and they don't want to do it again, so then there's the option of live-in committed relationships, which I think is a good option, actually, and it works quite well for many people. You can be unmarried, you can be having a live-in relationship. So as I mentioned, delay, have to define it based on your culture, but generally mid-30s onwards, I would say in the era that we live in, is fair to say mid-30s onward is considered delay. So who's going to be the delaying factor on the chart? Well, obviously it's going to be the malefics, right? It's good. And we know that just by understanding their maturity. Saturn's maturity is between 36 to 39. So that's delay planet number, planet number one who's caused the delay. And then in your 40s, the entire 40s, it's governed by Rahu Ketu.
Yes.
Where are they doing the chart? Where are they in the chart? Are they in the 612? Well, you're going to experience a delay if you haven't been married already, or there's going to be some challenge if you're going through Rahu Ketu Dasha in your 40s. So maturity of Rahu is generally taken to be around 42. And Ketu is generally taken to be around 48. I know there's a couple of astrologers that flip the two and take the maturity the other way, but this is what I see it as. So if in your chart, either Rahu or Ketu are impacting Venus, like it's a conjunction with Venus, for example, or there's a conjunction with the seventh lord, or they're aspecting the seventh lord, or there's an nakshatra exchange, then you can expect to meet someone significant between the age of 42 to 48 when the nodal maturity happens, right? So when we talk about maturity, the concept of maturity has to be understood. When the planet causing the delay, for example, in this, I gave you Ketu, when that age happens, that planet gets triggered, and so it manifests that which is it is connecting to. So, for example, you have Rahu or Ketu sitting with Venus, then you're going to meet someone special between those ages, between 40, because it's triggering that event. Also, right? That's also what maturity means. Is like when the planet matures, the signification of that will enter your life. If Saturn is impacting Venus or the seventh lord, as I mentioned, then you can expect that around the age from 36 to 39, you might meet someone. Or if you're in a relationship that has not been going well, that Saturn will break that relationship between the age of 36 to 39, if it's sitting right next to Saturn, or you're a Leo or Cancer, right? This is actually, I talked about this in a video that I made for Leo and Cancer, that marriage anyway tends to be a difficult thing for they Leos and Cancers go through certain challenges that I think other ascendants have to deal with. So if you are a Leo or Cancer, you've been in a very, very difficult marriage, when that Saturn maturity comes between 36 to 39, that can break that marriage also, right? It's because Saturn is maturing, then Saturn seventh lord for you. So, and of course, it doesn't mean that you're not going to meet someone before that if you have these conditions in your chart, right? But the quality of marriage may not be quite what you want or what you're seeking. And again, the most critical thing to look at is dasha, right? Like you are going through dashas, even if you have these in your chart, but you've been going through dashas from your, like, let's say early 30s to early 60s, very stabilizing dasha phases, then this may not affect you. Like we said before, I mean, you may have a very challenging chart when it comes to relationship, but you just happen to get the really good dashas from from those ages that are critical, which is like the age of 30 to 60, when you're building your life with someone, right? You're building your career and you're building your life and you're building your foundation, your home, from the age of 30 to 60. And you happen to get, and this could be also apply from the age of 25 to 55, let's say, right? 25 to 55 or 30 to 60, depending on, your education level. And you get fantastic dashas, but you have all of these afflictions with, or you have some of these afflictions with the planets and making it a challenge for a relationship. Well, yes, the chart is saying this, but your dasha sequence is going to override that because you happen to get dasha sequence that are very supportive. So yes, perhaps the quality of your marriage might be a little bit not 100% where you want it, but it's good enough to sort of, build a life with somebody. So that's very important to understand how much of a role the dasha, because I've seen charts where they are the chart is so strong. I mean, there's hardly any, and there's not many challenges. I mean, one or two challenges here or there when it comes to relationship, but it's not manifesting because their dasha that they're going through is so difficult, right? And that difficult dasha is unfortunately coming around at that youthful time of life when you are in the position to build and grow and create with someone, right? Between the like mid-20s to mid-50s, right? That's when you're experiencing that difficulty. It could be like a 20-year, like 19-year Saturn dasha, or it could be an 18-year Rahu dasha that you get right when you turn, let's say, right when you turn 30. And that really does have an impact. So I think it's very important to understand the um the significance of the dasha, because as we say, everything is timing, right? We say that for a reason, and like we say that for a reason that everything is timing. So that's important to understand. What is your view on this?
See, and I see if I were to say like, okay, what exactly, strike me the most when it comes down to, because definitely I've been following your content for a long time, and I still remember when you were covering the Rahu Ketu series, I was just waiting for the right axis of mine to come, and let's see what you have to come. And I still remember when that axis came, you mentioned the same thing. Okay, if you have Rahu in the first house, Ketu in the seventh house, or I guess it was the Rahu in the Aries or Ketu in the Libra, it will be much better that you get married in the 40s. Because see, definitely, see, Anaita, if I were to say, see, there's no such thing as early marriage, late marriage. Like, see, love is something which we all crave for. That is what, which distinguishes us humans from some any other species. Because it's, to be loved, to be taken care of. You'd not believe how many of the queries and consultations I get where people are already in their late 50s, and it hardly matters the way their journey has been in the past, and but still they're so optimistic, they're still so happy. And see, it's, and trust me, Anita, and I'm not talking about those depressive and melancholy types. I'm talking about those who are very uplifting, very vibrant, very happy go lucky, and they just want to be loved, they want to be in relationship. So I keep on coming across those cases, and I feel I take so much motivation from them. Now,
Yeah.
see why I mentioned my case. See, because see, I tell you, you very beautifully mentioned the example of Rahu, Ketu, and Saturn. See, definitely Saturn, what Saturn wants you to be, that Saturn wants you to be prepared and ready to undertake the responsibility of marriage. And definitely, if you have a Cancer or a Leo, the challenges and the burden of challenges will be very strong in your case. Now, how you are equipped, how much you are ready for to handle that challenges which will come with the pressure of the responsibility of being in a marriage and all, that will be of next level, specifically for the Leo and the Cancer, because right opposite to them is the energy of the planet Saturn. Now, when we talk about the excess of Rahu and Ketu, definitely, because Rahu and Ketu are the planet which, see, we say this thing that wheresoever Rahu and Ketu are placed, so our free will, they completely denounces, reject our free will, and nature takes a toll. You do not know what is going to be happening in that department. You do not have any answer. And in those areas and departments, at least looking at the Navamsa can give you this answer that whether you have a promise of that thing or not. Because Anada, I keep on coming across those cases where people, like, here I'm not talking about people who live with a acceptance. Here I'm talking about those people who are deluded. They are running from one astrologer to another astrologer, and now they reach a stage in their life. All what they want to know, bro, can you at least tell me whether I have that promise in my chart or not? Whether I have that yoga or not? Because I keep on following all the Jupiter transit, Dasha transit, everything happens, all the clocks from hour, minute, second matches, but it does not happen. So why? And I'm good to look at. I have a good job. Everything is happening. Why? This is the case which you will come across people who have Rahu Ketu axis either in the first or the seventh, or Rahu Ketu axis in the Aries or the Libra, or Rahu Ketu axis in the seventh lord. getting involved. Now, in these cases, definitely Navamsa plays an important role because it will give you an insight that, okay, there is a delay, but whether it's going to be happening or not, whether you have a promise or not. So,
Right.
yes, but very rightly said in this slide that if you have a strong Rahu and Ketu, like the way many astrologers say, if Ketu is influencing Libra, Ketu is influencing seventh house, Ketu is influencing seventh house Lord. Because over here in Aita as well, like the way very beautifully you mentioned in this whole series of discussion, that you have to also know that out of this axis, Rahu and Ketu, which side of the node is more strengthened in your life. So if Ketu is more strengthened and Ketu is gripping the department of your marriage, then definitely it's like you have to leave it to the universe. You have to surrender to the divine that whether a marriage is going to get denied, whether marriage is going to happen, whether marriage is going to happen with a very incompatible partner, very quarrelsome person, or whether marriage is going to be with a very loving partner. It's the God's wish. I accept it. So I guess yeah, you said it
Yeah.
very right.
Surrender. That's what Ketu is, right? I mean,
Yes.
Ketu, is we take it to be the ruler of Scorpio. What is Scorpio? Scorpio is surrender. Scorpio is, like when you like and I kind of joke sometimes with Leo Cancer. Sometimes, I mean, I'm Leo ascendant myself, so I know that. But like it just, things happen when you've just given up completely. You just like, it's just never gonna, and so that's just another form of surrender. So this is what it is. And as you rightfully say, regardless of the character traits of the person, you have to also surrender there. You have to have a sense of acceptance, because maybe your criteria is not very practical. It's not very realistic, maybe
Yes.
what you're looking for in another person, right? And this is what happens when Rahu Ketu get involved, because you end up rejecting where you shouldn't be, and you end up accepting where you shouldn't be. Even the rejection acceptance things, right? Like, especially when with Ketu in seventh, it can bring that energy, like, or maybe the other person is rejecting you for no reason, or you're rejecting them, and like I feel that when Ketu gets involved, the rejection can be there, and you don't understand why, and which can be
Yes,
painful.
see, yeah, over here the rejection is not on a human level. It's on a astral or a universal level which you cannot even understand. What went wrong?
Yeah, right. So if you haven't had a lot of relationships, then that's what's happening, right? It's actually on another level. And it's very interesting, because the people that are impacted by Ketu, it's funny because they're very good at relationship yet. Like, if you have Ketu in the seventh house, you have Ketu, they're actually quite sort of, they have a knack for relationship, but
Yes.
yet it's just, it's not
And
coming to.
and I know over here, like a lot many people also advocate this thing that Ketu in the seventh house or Ketu in the fifth house could be a blessing or hidden blessing in this regard that see Ketu somehow plays a very important role that your lineage will keep growing. So if you have Ketu in the seventh or the fifth house, somehow it might conspire a relationship or a progeny so that your lineage should keep going on. So yeah, but it's a mystery. Important is because when clients come to you, they want to know the timing. And with Ketu in the seventh, Ketu in the Libra, Ketu in the seventh house, Lord influencing it, it becomes very important to give a timeline to someone. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. Um, so here's an interesting thing that I've noticed also. Where is ninth lord in your chart? Is it afflicted? Is it in the nodal axis? This can cause delay for marriage or relationship. So ninth lord is placed with Saturn. Then again, the marriage could be delayed because of the Saturn matures 36th day. If the ninth lord is placed in the nodal axis, then that can delay the marriage even further. Right? Your ninth lord is sitting with Rahu, or your ninth lord is sitting with Ketu. Because it's that luck factor also, right? Ninth lord is, we see it as it's Bhagyastan, right? It's
Yes.
your luck, it's your fortune opening up, your light. So if Rahu and Ketu are afflicting that ninth lord, and the ninth lord is perhaps sitting in Dushtana house or something, that's also compounded factor that can cause, because relationship not coming together, it can hold back other aspects of your life, like having a family, sometimes even having a home. So it can really affect a lot of other aspects. So the other thing to look at, malefic sit in the seventh house. That's another delaying factor, right? Malefic moon also you have to see, because moon is not, I mean, moon people just like assume that it's a benefic planet, but not necessarily, right? If it's a waning moon, it's not considered to be benefic. Do malefics sit with Venus? Venus being the marriage karaka. Does Saturn sit in the fifth house? Because here it aspects seventh and 11th, that can delay. But that's going to delay, it's not going to deny. Saturn in seventh is actually considered to be good because it offers protection to that marriage. It offers longevity to the marriage, right? And you also look at that when you meet someone, if Saturn is transiting your seventh house and you meet someone at that time, that's a good sign that it's going to be a long-lasting relationship.
Yes. Yes.
Is Karaka being adversely affected? Then this can also lead to a delay, right? If it's sitting in a Dushtana house, if it's sitting with a malefic. Impactful delay factors are, of course, caused by Saturn and Ketu. No. Combustion, of course, also causes delay. Venus, Sun together, which is actually quite common. But if Venus is a higher degree, then it's more of a delay. Seventh Lord and Sun together. Because what? Seventh Lord is getting combusted. You have to see how close they are to each other. Jupiter and Sun together can also be a problem, especially in a woman's chart, because Jupiter is the Karaka for husband. Retrograde Jupiter I've found to be problematic. It can certainly delay marriage. Debilitation of seventh lord, of course, malefic hemming of the seventh house or the seventh lord. And this is also to do with not just the marriage delay, but it can also cause the quality of the relationship to go down. If, for example, the seventh house is sitting like the sixth house and the eighth house contain malefic.
Yeah, malefic planets, yes.
Yeah. And the other cause for delay actually is the Dharma Trikona, which we're seeing a lot more of in the era that we live in. The Dharma Trikona is just very strong. You just don't need anybody. You just don't need anybody. And this is especially the case for women that's happening. I've seen this so often with women.
Yeah, too much strong Jupiter increases the idealism, expectation too high that it becomes very difficult to find someone. And these days, you come across, like, I still remember a family who came to me. They're like, our daughter is so jubilant, so brilliant, her package and everything. Now it's very difficult for us to find a matching person. Very right.
Yeah. You're too self-reliant. And maybe it's just the relationships that you've had or the people that you've met. It's just been one disappointment after another. It could be unfulfilling relationships that you've had. And you realize that, you know what, my quality of life is actually better when I'm single than I am when I'm with someone else. So when you make that analysis, you end up thinking, well, maybe I'm better off on my own. And this is an analysis that a lot of people make, not just women, but like men and women both make this. But I think women are more inclined to make this analysis. And then if you have more planets in fire and earth signs, right? Because we want, we want more water. Again, relationship, we want more water. And air is also good, right?
Yes.
Air relationship, because that's Rahu and Saturn. Rahu, Saturn definitely want you to get into a relationship. Maybe late, but they definitely want you to get into a relationship. They may bring problems in the relationship, but they definitely want you to get into a relationship. Who doesn't want you to get into a relationship? Ketu and Mars. Ketu and Mars don't care if you are. So you have to see that also what's happening in your chart. Is there a balance? Is there a balancing factor happening, or just too much of fire? Yeah. Difficult conjunctions, as I mentioned, Venus, Sun, seventh lord is with the malefic. Venus is with the nodes. Venus with the nodes brings these instant attractions, also this obsessive, this hypnotic type of thing that we were talking about before, like you mentioned. But it also creates confusion in relationship. It can create also disinterest in relationship after a period of
Yeah, Yeah, and I guess to a certain extent, like it's like where the person has got very, what do you call that, diabolic, very unnatural desires and expectations from the partner in the relationship. So Rahu influencing Venus in the eighth house a lot many times gives those. See, okay, again, I do not want to use the word perverted, but yeah, it distort the straight orientation. So it somehow distort your orientation, even in the matters of compatibility and everything.
Yeah, yeah. And how and also not just that, but like your expectations are unrealistic. Again, like it just,
Unrealistic.
right? And you just so and you have the kind of way of dealing with somebody that is very short term. You lack the skills. You simply lack the relationship skills that allow you to have a long-term relationship because you're used to the quick fix. Like you want a quick fix, quick
Yes.
attraction. So it starts quickly and it's very this thing, but it also dissolves very quickly, right? So that can happen when Venus is with a nose. It creates that instability, actually. Um, and believe it or not, Venus and Jupiter together. I mean, I've actually done a video on this. Where I talk about all Venus afflictions to Venus. And so Venus and Jupiter together, it can create an inner conflict. I mean, when you look at that on a chart, you think, oh, wow, great. I mean, two benefics. But no, I mean, you have to understand, these are benefics that have completely different agendas, right? Their natures are very different also. Um, Jupiter is more traditional, right? It's more ritualistic. Venus is more out of the box, out of like that thing. So it can create an inner conflict with your spiritual and your material paths. And I've actually seen this happen quite a bit. With charts that the Venus and Jupiter together is creating a problem. That combined with you're too self-sufficient,
Hmm.
you end up just kind of thinking, oh, well, I don't really need anybody. Um, Venus or seventh lord in Ketu's nakshatras.
Yes. Yes. And Anahita, what do you think? Okay, Anahita, I want to get your philosophical quote on this. So, what do you think? What could be the agenda behind Ketu in the seventh house, Ketu influencing Venus, Libra, or seventh lord, delaying things? Is it because it is giving you the justice to some punishment or things wrong which you have done in the past? Because Saturn is different. Saturn is a has got a department of justice and seeing whether you are mature, ready to undertake the responsibility or not. What do you think? What could be the reason for? And we see in certain times we say that okay, a Mars afflicting the seventh house something. Okay, get married after 28. Now Mars is mature. Your behavior is going to be more graceful. Before that, you are like very animalistic, very intense, impulsive. So what do you think? What is the agenda behind Ketu delaying things or hiding things when it is in the seventh house? What do you think?
I don't think I definitely don't think it's punishment orientated. I don't think it's like how, especially in India, we say this like, it's bad, kuch kara hoga,
Ha,
pichli
bad
jai.
karma from the past. Yeah, some sins, mistakes. Yeah.
I don't think it's that. Because even if it is that, you get to a stage where so my view is that it could very well be a memory of a past experience that is so entrenched in the mind that was a negative experience, that
Yes.
was a negative experience that and because we're talking about people, right? And you can't let go of it. You can't let go of it. You haven't forgotten. It could be more than one lifetime you've had this experience where it was so painful, it was negative, it was so disappointing that the relationship, there's somewhere in the mind is entrenched this belief that relationship will not bring me pleasure or happiness or satisfaction.
You're very rightly said. It's the deeply imprinted in your subconsciousness.
Isn't it?
Yes, and I guess and over here, it's not only and now see now right at that point, your moon nakshatra also comes into picture. So, like for example, I took my case, Rahu in the first and Ketu in the seventh. But along with that, my moon nakshatra is also Sadvisha, and Sadvisha has been known for creating a circle or a boundary around them where they do not let anyone else enter. So we have got two confirmation, right? So one point is okay. That's the reason sometimes people say this thing that okay, you like let's take up my hypothetical example. Okay, you are so friendly, you are so social. Why it did not happen? So, okay, Ketu in the seventh and the moon nakshatra is also acting at the same time, right? So, Ketu has already creating a boundary, and your moon nakshatra has also created a circle of boundary around you, like a protective fort around you. So, it does not even let anyone come and enter your that comfort zone or friendship zone. So, yeah, very rightly said, yes.
And you know, and we're creating those. You have to understand we're creating those boundaries, right? And we can do it in many ways. Like, for example, you work a lot. I mean, even for me, if I look at my history with my work, I mean, for me, my career was so much more fulfilling than relationship. Like, it was just more. It wasn't, and so it wasn't like I was going from one relationship to the another. No, I was just not in a relationship because I was putting so much, because you're putting so much time and energy and love, your own love that you're supposed to be giving to another human being, you're putting into your career, your work, because it's such a place of fulfillment for you, right? So we create these obstacles on, this is how we're creating them on our own. So maybe we don't, you know, that way we keep ourselves kind of, like you said, enclosed in that circle. So this is what happens, because again, it comes back to like that, having that memory of things just not like, you know, maybe it wasn't for me, and maybe it was so painful that you don't want to try it again. You don't want to go down that road again, or you're looking for somebody to be. And again, isn't it interesting, because we're talking about Rahu Ketu, right? So because you have this memory, or it could just be a memory of relationship being so insignificant and a liability, or just, so maybe it wasn't painful, but maybe it was just um unpleasant, like it wasn't, it didn't make you happy in some way. So again, so you're looking for somebody who really like sparks you to the point where you're obsessed with a person, you're hypnotized, you can't forget them, you can't, you know. And then again, we come back to that Rahu Ketu, because that's what Rahu Ketu do, right? That's how Rahu Ketu bring in an interest and an attraction, a connection. How do they bring it? They bring it so forcefully, so fated, like that feeling of this thing. So again, Rahu Ketu is playing a role, right? So if you have Rahu Ketu in the first 7 axis, or with Venus or with the moon, that's how you, that's what you're looking for to bring you out of that shell, that that thing that you created for yourself based on past experiences, based on your priorities being somewhere else. You really need a shakeup to you know, for you to get into a relationship, because otherwise you're quite happy not, like, you know, carrying on just as, right? So this is again how Rahu Ketu, I think, plays such a role. But yeah, Venus or seventh lord in Ketu's nakshatras, I mean, that's again, there's a feeling that I just there's a feeling, again, it depends on I would say this, it depends on whether it's seventh lord or Venus, right? Because if it's Venus, then there is really like, then there's a memory of, you know, just relationship, not like maybe it didn't work for you, or there was something very, it could have also been a very dramatic and very unforgettable ending to a relationship that you can't let go of, right? Maybe it was sudden death, or maybe the person was very abusive and you couldn't leave the relationship, and could be from the past life, or maybe they cheated on you.
Yes.
They cheated on you repeatedly, and that really sort of severed your, so that Venus Ketu connection is definitely a tricky one to transcend. And then I would say see the significance from the significations from the moon chart also to get the whole picture, right? So for example, position of Venus in chart, are they 6, 8, 12 from each other? Yeah, that can make it difficult to meet someone suitable. It just, you're not meeting suitable people. You're meeting a lot of people, but they're just not suitable. So again, as we talked about, dasha plays a role. Are you running the dasha during your marriage years, right? And as you rightfully say, there's no longer any marriage years, right? Like now, like people, you can get married in your 70s. I remember
Yes.
I go to a retreat and I met these 2 British ladies. They'd both gotten remarried in their 70s. So that can happen at any time. Marriage can happen, like children. cannot happen at any time. Children do come
Yes.
with limitations, but marriage can happen at any time. The other thing that I actually, it's funny because I was taking a Nadi course last summer through Art of Living. Actually, I was taking a Nadi course, and I learned one thing that I learned. I mean, I learned quite a few Nadi concepts, which was very interesting and very practical. I find Nadi astrology to be. So the dasha of 1, 6, 10 houses, if they're predominant in your chart, if those are the predominant dashas that you've been running, then it's very difficult. Then it's very difficult for a relationship and to get married. Why? Because 6th house is 12 from the 7th, right? Loss of the 7th. 1 is 12 from 2, and 2 is, a marriage house, family.
Yeah. Okay.
Growth. And 10, why? Because it's 12 from the 11th. And 2, 7, 11 are the marriage houses.
Yeah.
So if you have if you've been running the dashas of especially the 6th house and the 10th house, I think are more difficult. 1 less difficult. Then this can certainly delay marriage. In delayed marriages anyway, and delayed relationships, committed relationships, the favorable dashas do come later in life. Then the other concept is, of course, the Upapada Lagna.
Definitely.
Yeah. Where is the Upapada Lagna falling in your chart? I mean, if people don't know what Upapada Lagna is, they can easily pull up. I've done a video on it. I'm sure you've done a video on it to understand how to calculate Upapada Lagna.
Yes.
But it's basically where's the 12th lord gone in your chart from itself.
That basis, yeah.
So if your Upapada falls in the 6th or 8th from your Lagna, that's a delay factor, obviously. It can also be breaking of the relationship factor, right?
Yes.
The Upapada contains Saturn, Rahu, just malefic planets or a debilitated planet. That's also a delay factor. The Upapada Lord is debilitated, and that also leads to delay. Yeah. So there's a rule of exceptions in the Upapada Lagna. I don't take the exception rule, but you can also take that and see what's happening if that's causing the delay. And then, of course, you see the line to see how strong planets are to give results. And we were talking about this before. I mean, Venus is exalted in your D1 chart, and it's sitting in your 11th house. Wow, at first glance, you see that, you're like, wow. And then you see in your D9 chart, that same Venus is sitting in Leo with Cancer. It's sitting in Leo with Saturn, or with Rahu, or with Ketu. I mean, the picture changes, isn't it?
Yes, entirely. Yes.
So I would pay particular attention to Venus and Moon in that D9 chart, but you can also look at Lagna Lord, 7th Lord. Also pay attention to the 7th house in the D9. In fact, I find that the 7th house in the D9 can often tell you more about your partner's attributes than even the 7th house in the D1.
Wow, that's a beautiful assessment. Yes.
Yeah. So definitely pay attention to the 7th house of the D9. Of course, you need your precise time of birth to understand where that is. Then there's a concept called Rashi Tulya. So how you do this, it's very easy, actually. You find the 1-7 axis in your chart, in your main chart, the D1 Rashi chart, and then you see what planets are situated in that same axis in the D9. So for example, you're a Cancer Lagna, you're Cancer ascendant, and so you would see Cancer and Capricorn in the D9. What's sitting in Cancer and Capricorn in the D9? Definitely will cause delay. Dasha of those malefics will of course cause delay. Ketu and Saturn in D9 ascendant is not great for marriage. It certainly brings delay. Debilitated planet in the 1-7 axis of the D9 can bring delay. Afflicted Venus in the D9 chart, as we talked about that already. I mean, very, very important to note Venus's position in the D9, right? It could be with Mars, it could be in the nodal axis, it could be with Saturn. So that's difficult. Okay, so now I have example charts for you.
Wow, nice.
And we can kind of do this little activity together, and we will and your audience, feel free to post in the comments what are the delaying factors here. I have two example charts, and we're going to look at them together. And in fact, I've made notes actually because I've looked at this and picked out for you what I think are some of the delay factors. What do you think, Nipun? Something
Um,
you
Okay, so in this chart, the points which we have discussed so far. So first of all, okay, like whenever I have to, okay, I'll go step by step the way we have assessed the chart, the points and everything. So
Yeah,
ascendant lord, looking at first of all where the ascendant lord is placed, which all planets are influencing the ascendant, because that tells about the innate personality of the person. Because before getting into the marriage house, we have to first see the personality. So looking at the person, okay, the person is very fiery because the ascendant is of a fire sign, moon sign is also of a fiery sign. Ascendant lord is in the 11th house. So regarding the success, reputation, status, recognition, the chart promises strong potential.
yeah,
And also ascendant lord is the Mrigashira, which is the nakshatra of the planet Mars. Mars is also exalted. The moon sign is also Aries. So definitely the Martian quality, the fiery quality is very strong. Now,
yeah,
if you have to ask me about from the relationship point of view, so now we have to see it from that angle. So the just on the ascendant chart, we have to see the seventh house lord, which is the planet Saturn, which is the story for majority of the Leo and the Cancer people. Now it is placed in the 10th house and it is conjunct with the Venus over there. So yes,
right.
Saturn and Venus is the one story which we get to know from over here. Now, if you look at the D9 chart, the chart specific for the marriage and the relationship, so we have to see that, okay, what exactly is happening with the seventh house over there? What exactly is happening with the seventh house lord of the Lagan chart as well? So over here in the D9 chart, we have a Taurus rising and Venus is placed right over there in the first house. See, again, see, if I were to say, Anaita, like when we talk about from the point of view, like the way I mentioned, like there are like certain charts which lack that that sense of charm in their persona, because obviously the Venus in quality for someone to be in relationship and all early or late is a later on discussion. Important is that whether you have the charm and persona, because when we talk about marriage relationship, it's the Martian and the Venusian people only who wants to be in a relationship, who flourish, who thrive in relationship, the adventure and thrust of that relationship. So yeah, over here as well, Venus in the D9 charts first house is a very prominent sign. But now I will pay attention to you have written the specific point. So you have written, pay particular attention to Venus. So Venus looks like to be Vargotam. Venus is, I'm not seeing, yeah, there's a little bit affliction coming in from the planet Saturn, but Saturn and Venus are good friends in itself. So again,
Yeah,
it's not a much of the vulnerability. We have seen the Saturn. Saturn becomes very important in this chart. It is not afflicted for sure. And
right.
we have to give attention to the Jupiter. So let's see what Jupiter is doing. Jupiter is placed in the fourth house, and in the D9 chart, it is Bhav Vargotam. It is not Rashi Vargotam, but it is
Yes.
Bhav Vargotam. And we have to see the Dasha sequence. Dasha sequence. So the Dasha which you have put for me over here is Vimshotri Dasha. So yes, so right now the person is in the Rahu and the Sun period. The Rahu and the Sun period.
Rahu
Okay.
Venus.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so yeah, Naida, what exactly you want to highlight over here in this chart? Now you tell
Delay.
me.
Delay factor. So Leo Lagna, that was spot on that
Yeah.
you pointed.
Cancer and the Leo. Okay.
Venus with Saturn, so we know that, remember, Saturn's delay is 36 to 39, so we know it's going to be around that. Also, Venus, Saturn together, combined with the fact that it's Leo Lagna, we know it's going to be late marriage. Um,
Yes.
there's malefic with, so we have a malefic with Venus, we have Saturn there. We also have the aspect of Rahu, okay? We have ninth lord afflicted. Remember we talked about the ninth lord,
Yes,
Bhagyastan?
yes.
Lord is Mars. It's sitting with Rahu in the Dushtana house,
Yes.
right? So that could cause delay till 40s because we're talking
Okay.
about the Lord sitting with Rahu, and Rahu's maturity is 40s.
40s.
Atma Karaka is Mars also, afflicted by Rahu. We talked about that. Atma Karaka's afflictions. Retrograde Jupiter, that can play a role. Dharma Trikon is very, very strong here, if you can see, right?
Yes.
Lagna Lord is in the 11th. Fifth Lord is Jupiter in Scorpio. It's quite good. It's in a Kendra house. It's quite good. Ninth house contains Moon. And ninth Lord is exalted, sitting in the sixth house. So we know that the Dharma Trikona is quite strong. Planets are concentrated in earth and fire. We talked about that also as an element. But there's a balance here because there is some air, there is also some water. Yeah. Venus is aspected by Jupiter. So we know the Venus-Jupiter connection. But that's not a strong one. Moon, Venus are 212 from each other. We talked about that also. And then, of course, another important thing that we talked about that I think often gets neglected is the dasha the person is going through. This person has been going through the dasha of the sixth house planets since more than 20 years, right? And Rahu Venus now. So that's going to cause a delay, and it could also cause breakup, right? Because it's sixth house, so it's loss of the seventh. And for this person, Upapada Lagna is also Capricorn, which is sixth from the Lagna, and again, Dushtana house, and it contains malefics.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right? D9 Moon is aspected by Mars, which is great for career life, right? Because it's a exalted Mars, but not good for a relationship.
Yeah, because the same thing which you mentioned, Naita, like we have to see the same axis, like first and the seventh in the D9 chart as well. So if you will see in the D9 charts, Leo and the Aquarius sign, so you have Jupiter, you have Moon, you have Mars, you have Saturn. All the planets are being placed over there. Yes.
Exactly. And the moon is, it is afflicted. It's receiving Saturn and Mars's aspect, right? So this is important. We have to see the D9 for the moon and Venus, especially. Okay. And as you rightfully pointed out, the 1-7 axis, Saturn and Mars. Okay. So now we look at one more chart just to see we can practice and see what's happening here. What do you think, Vipul?
What daily factors are present here? Can you spot them? Particular attention to Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, Moon, Lagna, D9. Okay. So over here, if we look at the rising signs, so we have Cancer, we have Moon being placed right over there, but Moon is also conjunct with Saturn and Mars. So although the degree of the ascendant, like Moon is still of 23 degrees Ashlesha, but ascendant is very strongly conjunct with Saturn and the Mars. Most importantly, Saturn is almost very tightly conjunct with the ascendant. So the seventh house lord is placed over there. So too much of the pressure which is coming right over there in the first house. And now apart from that, we have to, like the way I always start the analysis first, looking at the personality of the person and understanding the person. So yes, looking at the personality of this person, someone looks like to be nurturing, nourishing, but at the same time, highly strong nature. Like the nature is highly strong, like very prone towards pressure, very prone towards pressure of responsibilities and all. You look at the 10th house, yes, we have Sun, we have Ketu, we have Jupiter, we have Venus. So yeah, this is a special chart. Like the if you will see the way planets are placed. So we have almost like 3 planets in the first house, and we have 4 planets in the 10th house. Like in this is a typical chart where we say this thing that if the delay has happened, just looking at the ascendant chart, that is somehow telling about career might have been a priority. Like the family, either this could be family responsibilities, this could be career related responsibilities, running around or something, which could be a concern. And second thing is that, like the way, see, Anahita, if we will make a comparison between the chart which we just saw and now looking at this chart, there is a difference between, because the previous chart, the aspect of the love, nourishment, harmony was a lot strong over there. Because see, even in the D9 chart, Taurus was rising there with Venus being very well placed and being Vargottam. And
Yeah.
see, Mars and Venus is strengthened. Somehow they give passion. Now, definitely, you are a relationship material. Delay and early, that is all the department of the Dasha unfolding. But at least you are a relationship material. But over here, looking at this chart, yeah, definitely the personality looks like to be highly strong with burden and pressure of the career, family, responsibilities, and all of that. Now let's look at the D9 chart. So in the D9 chart, we see that Mars and Venus looking at the 12th house, and with Mars being debilitated and all, this also is not creating a very good energy. You see, specifically, we have to see which alignment they are being placed. So Mars is Virgotam, being debilitated. It is Virgotam. It is not changing its nature. It is Virgotam, but again, it is in the 12th house conjunct with Venus. So this is a typical chart where we say this thing that, and in the D9 chart, the first house Lord is also afflicted, is debilitated in the third house. So yes, this chart has got, see, if I were to say, Anahita, this chart, you see, in this chart, late marriage has to be there, because if this chart will get married early, first half and all, there will be like too much of the court cases, battle, problems, hidden things, misunderstanding. And see, Anahita, I'll say the same thing. In India, there's a so-called thing, because what happens in West is that you ended up in a wrong marriage. Okay, you come to a conclusion that okay, we cannot live together, let's sever the ties and go our own ways. The problem in India is that if one person sticks that okay, I will not leave you, so you have a tag of, you're midway, you're not even like you're divorced, you're not separated, you do not know where you are in the relationship. So yeah, this chart has got all the indications and signs. Prima facie, primary looking at the chart, this chart has got indications. Now let's look at the dasha as well. So in the dasha, the person is in the moon Mahadasha right now. So yes, the thing is, moon is active till 2027. Moon is the ascendant lord. I always say this thing, those people are blessed who get to experience the dasha of their ascendant lord, because that is the reason for which the soul has taken birth, something to do with the life purpose. But again, over there as well, moon Mercury, they are not, like Mercury is placed in the house of wish fulfillment, but they both are inimical to each other as per the planetary friendship. So yeah, see, Anahita, that's what I can say. Prima facie, looking at the chart, it is not indicating very harmonious, what do you call that? Prescribed life. This
Yeah,
is marking everywhere delays, problems, obstruction, heavy responsibilities, like heavy responsibilities.
yeah,
See,
absolutely.
again, this could be a good chart for career success. This could be a good chart for career success, authority, power, and all. But if I were to look at it only from the relationship point of view, I will. There's a lot of ifs and buts and do's and don'ts which are coming in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But one thing you will notice is that the Gall Sarp is getting
Oh yes, yes. I see. But being a culture by my own, so that's the first thing which I always picks. All the planets are in the axis of Rahu and Ketu. Yes.
and the
And see,
D9.
the thing is, see, and over here, see, that's what the thing is. See, you have to pick up the pulse of
Yeah,
any chart. So whenever you have, see, it's a beauty of the universe that whenever you come across these kind of charts, they do not come with one problem. They come with majority of the problems. So see, not only there's a Kalsar, but there is also the moon is also in the Gand Moon Nakshatra as well. So that is what happens. See, those people who have a, they do not have any affliction, you will not find them on radar anyway. Those who are in radar, you get the confirmation from every aspect. Ascendant Lord in the 12, Moon being the Gandmool, then Rahu Ketu, Kal Sarp, everything will get promised.
yeah. And what's interesting is that the D9, I've seen charts where the D9 also is, there's a Gall Sarp, but the D9, the Gall Sarp has been broken. So marriage can be good for this person. They also have Jupiter aspecting the seventh house of the D9, which is promising. It's promising marriage. We don't know. But see, both of these charts, the people are in their late 40s, okay? And neither of them have been married before.
Okay.
Okay, so both of them, we know that the nodes are playing a role in that marriage delay, right? Here we have Venus impacted by Ketu. And do you see what's interesting here is there's a nakshatra exchange. So Venus is in Ketu's nakshatra and Ketu is in Venus's nakshatra.
Yes, yes.
Very strong Ketu Venus signature. So we know marriage is going to definitely be delayed till late 40s, early 50s. Malefics are with Venus, Sun and Ketu. Venus being marriage, Cancer Lagna, as you rightfully pointed out. Moon is also there, so that's even more of a reason for challenge or delay in marriage. Ninth Lord Jupiter is also afflicted with Ketu. Okay. But as you rightfully pointed out, the career and financial situation of this person is very, very good.
Yes.
Atma Karka also afflicted by Ketu. Ketu is so prominent in this chart, as you can see.
Yes.
Planets are concentrated in the 1 and 10 houses. Right? So there's more of a focus on self than the other.
Yes, yes. Definitely it is going to be there. Because see, first house, third house, 10th house definitely makes you very self-willed. Like me, I, me, myself. Yes.
Yeah. Venus aspected by Jupiter, another delay factor. Running dasha of the first house, which is
And see,
more.
and the thing is, Anahita, like the way I remember, like any divisional chart, the first lord of that divisional chart also tells you about the theme of that life, right? Like for example, if ascendant is my life, the theme of my life is the life force is the ascendant lord of the D1 chart. Same in the D9 chart, the first house lord of the D9 chart will be the theme of that attribute aspect of the life. So D9 is about marriage. The first house lord in itself is debilitated in the third house. And then if you will combine it with all the factors, so seventh house lord in an enemy sign and the Venus in itself individually, although Venus in the 12th house, the Kalpurush Kundali is considered as very good. Like Mars in the 6th, Saturn in the 8th, Venus in the 12th, in any case gets brownie points. But because it is conjunct with a debilitated Mars and all, and the overall theme, so it's making it more vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the UL for this, the Upapada Lagna for this person is Aries. It contains Ketu and Sun. Again,
Yes,
your
yes,
Lord is Mars, which is debilitated and afflicted with Saturn, right?
yes, yes.
And as you said, D9 Venus is also afflicted. So Saturn is also in the first house. We talked about that being difficult for marriage and
Yes.
bringing. So,
No,
but
this is a see, Anahita, this is not only a chart of a case study for a late marriage, but also it's caution and care. Like whenever at whatsoever stage you're gonna tie the knot and all, so you have to be caution and care needs to be followed. So because there's a vulnerability coming in from every areas.
yeah, absolutely. But it does look like marriage is good for this person. Whether it's good for the marriage partner, that's a question. But it is good for this person, because of what happens in the D9. Yeah. So it's all about timing, really.
Yes, yes.
You can have the worst chart ever, or you can have the best chart ever. But if your time hasn't come, your time hasn't
Yes.
come.
Yes.
And as I mentioned, you're in a positive dasha, your partner has 10 flaws and things aren't, but things are going smoothly for you. You don't, so then you're going to underplay those flaws. You're not going to focus on them. But then you can be challenged in dasha. Things are going horribly for you. Then you notice all of those flaws, right? And some will also get exaggerated, of course. So, all right. So finally, the last thing on the list is timing the beginning of a relationship or meeting the partner. Dasha sequence, as we have mentioned so many times, is very important. So you're the dasha of either of the marriage karakas, Venus or Rahu. Dasha of the 2nd, 7th, 11th lord or house. Connection of dasha lord with ascendant, lagna lord, 7th lord or 7th house. Nakshatra of 7th lord is activated by a dasha. Yeah. Dasha is empowered to give marriage and relationship. Rahu Venus, Saturn Venus, Venus Rahu, Saturn Rahu, Venus. Now you notice the pattern here. Venus is with either Rahu or Saturn. Saturn Rahu can give. Why? Because it's karma. These are karmic planets. Saturn and Rahu are karmic planets.
Yes.
Rashi dashas, if you're looking at, for example, Gemini,
Gemini, yes.
containing the planet that has the Darakaraka, that can give marriage, certainly. And I would also look at conditional dashas if they apply to your chart. For example, you have 10th lord in the 10th house, then
Yes.
dasha will apply. That kind of thing, right? And then transits that will trigger the event, Sun is transiting 1st, 5th, 7th, 11th, because Sun is the like the natural, like Jupiter, it, you know, like it wants you to get married. Mars in the 1st, 5th, or 7th. Venus return or Venus year lord in your annual chart. I always look at that. I always look at the Varshapal chart and see if Venus is the year lord. So I take that to be a good sign that a relationship is coming that year. Venus return also. Double transit of Jupiter and Saturn basically means that Jupiter and Saturn are both in transit, activating first house,
Seventh Lord. Yes.
7th Lord, or house, or Venus, or the Dharkaraka, right? It could be conjuncting or aspecting.
Yes.
And then Lagna and 7th Lord connecting in transit. Rahu aspecting 5th, 7th, 11th houses, or 7th Lord, or Venus, in either D1 or D9. Look at both. And even like a Rahu Ketu return is a trigger
Yes.
for a relationship coming along. So we talked about this compatibility based on dasha. See what's dasha you're going through the next few years, 10, 15, 20, if you want a long-term relationship. If you're compatible, but both people are going through dasha of 6th or 10th, then it can be difficult just to get married to begin with. If dashas are benefic planets, then then that like cancels that out to some extent, right? If one person is going through malefic, others benefic, then that's fine. So one is going through a Saturn dasha, but the other person is going through Venus, fine. If they're going through malefic dasha, then it can be difficult. So you need to check for long term, you need to check for several years. And we are at the end.
Yes.
So if you have questions, comments, feel free to, of course, put them in the comment box below. You can also email us. But I also wanted to make a quick announcement, which I've just recently created these courses. So and you can go to purchase them online. One is just an introduction to Jyotish. It's very, very basic. It's for people who don't know much. I talk about divisional charts, nakshatras, signs, planets, houses, all of them I talked about in sort of thorough detail. And it's like basically comprised of 4 videos, 4 PowerPoint presentations. And the same with the Jaimini astrology, it's comprised of 4 videos, 4 PowerPoint presentation, and the Jaimini is for people who know some basics, but they want to learn about Jaimini astrology, how to apply the Jaimini concepts when you're looking at charts, like things like Jarakarakas are discussed, sign aspects, special lagnas, and I use a lot of example charts to show the Raj yogs and things. So
Thanks a lot, Anahita. So, all what is going to be happening from this point onward is that you're going to be the relationship expert on my channel, and any aspect of, it's like about relationship, about marriage, about compatibility and all. So you'll be in the top of my priority list to be invited on my channel. And this whole presentation was deeply, very, very informational. Like, you actually covered every aspect, like traditional aspect, modern day context, compatibility, the factors causing delay. So I'm very much sure that this presentation, 2-part presentation, is going to be very informational. It's going to be giving guidance to lot many people. And if nothing happens, see, most likely in the next video, we can also make a video on the remedies for the relationship as well. Like, whichever aspect you are suffering, what could be the specific remedies or mantra, rudraksha, different ways you can appease those energies, and the right alternative way. So in this video, we discuss the yogas which contribute. In next video, how to tackle them through remedies and all. Right set of mindset, approach and all. So we'll definitely do that.
absolutely.
So thanks a lot, Anahita. Yeah, I am very honored for you to visit my channel, and thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.